Hi guys. Forgive me if I cough every now and again. My house is extremely dusty, and I'm really, really terrible with dusting, and I've been kicking up more dust because of packing and taking Mucinex on top of this. So this means that, there's a whole lot of, you will hear this a lot. It's unfortunate. It drives me crazy. Um, Weird week. Good week, but weird week. So, as you know, I did a post going, there may be a reprieve. This is very, very true. I had two people, both of whom are absolutely just saints. They are wonderful ladies, and they are so, so pivotal um, and such a huge part of why I'm here and how I'm still here at Livejournal. It's just boggling. Um, Both of them suggested calling churches and trying to get some help and trying to find a way to do that. And Elif, I'm always so worried about mispronouncing that. um, she suggested it, and I went all paranoid and uber stupid because that's what I do. I can be an idiot. And then I have digital, not but maybe 12 hours later, suggesting the same thing. The first time, okay. Um, I guess I can be paranoid and go, oh no, no, that's not the way. Even though calling a church and getting help is exactly what I did 2 years ago. It probably kicked in the old Catholic guilt that I got baptized with because, yeah, I've been kind of Wiggins about doing it ever since. Well, digital suggested the same thing. Now, to give you a timeline, right around Monday, or it may have been Tuesday, I got a call from J.P. Morgan, IRS Manpower, um, to come do a job that I did in April and in October. Now, what's so funny is they didn't call up and ask. They called up and told me what time they expected me to show up. Whereupon, because I'm still in the middle of a conversation with Aleph and Digital, I go, well, I'm being evicted, so I don't plan on me being there. I'm sorry. I'm packing up so I can move. Um, so I talk with Digital and I get everything set up. So I call on Tuesday and it's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I mean, this week's been a bit of a blur. And I tell them, okay, I can probably do it. Call me back, guys. Whenever you can do that. They, of course, didn't call me back. So on Wednesday, Digital and I talk. We live in the same area. It's so funny. Elif lives near an area that I lived in when my husband and I were first together in Florida. Digital and I live in the same city here. And we have the whole entire time we knew each other, and we didn't figure that out until like the first 1 or 2 years, into our relationship. That was funny. And both of these ladies are just the coolest people ever. But Digital gave me a call, and we hashed out what we were going to be doing. And she was like, call some churches. And I told her that, who I planned to call and when. And, hashed out some of my fears with her. And she's always so patient. I swear to God, I know that when you talk to me on the phone or you talk to me in person, I come across as a moron. I really must. But she's always so awesome, and she's so sweet. She puts up with my blithering. Um, and so we, said, okay, well, tomorrow we'll call two or three churches and we'll call each other and find out what's going on. Of course, tomorrow happened to be Thursday. Uh, that's when things get hairy, but I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. So I hang up with Digital, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got a battle plan. Yay, I got a battle plan. And then I get a call, not but half an hour later, from the Olive Garden. And they're like, we want you to come in and interview. And I was like, really? Okay. I still haven't heard back from JP Morgan Manpower. So I'm like, why not? Let's give it a whirl. Lady's like, can you come in today? I'm like, today's not going to be able to do it, but I can come in tomorrow. Like I said, tomorrow is Thursday, and this is when things kind of get crazy. Um, so Thursday comes, I wake up, snow on the ground. It's everywhere. It's not very deep, but it's enough for them to close the schools. And that's because we had such warm weather. The snow is actually more hazardous because the ground isn't cold enough to keep the snow cold, which turns into sludge, which, if it drops temperature any further, becomes ice. Uh, and they had already salted the roads and everything, but that doesn't make a difference. So they closed everything down. Schools are closed, and I called one of the churches that I could swear to God helped me 2 years ago, and they were like, "We don't do that." And the lady was like so completely non-helpful. I'm like, "What the heck is even going on here?" But a lady in the background from her is like, "Well, have her call this place." So I got the number. I called them. They're closed. Well, they're attached to a school, but the Dare to Care, everything, food banks, everything were all shut down because of snow. And it's because just sudden drop and first snow here in Louisville always takes some getting used to. But first snows, the kids are home. Poor things. I walked them to the bus stop. We stood there for 10 minutes. And for 10 minutes, I watched as there were no buses. There is none of the morning traffic that I'm used to, and there are no buses. So I was like, yeah, you probably don't have school today. And it's only because I went and I checked on my usual sites, and none of them seemed to be sure. When I came home, I looked up those same sites, and sure enough, while we were out playing in the snow, then they go, oh yeah, by the way, Jefferson County Public Schools are closed. Of course, thank you. Um, but I, relaxed a bit, got ready for my interview, which is at 3:30. I get a call about an hour before my interview, and I got told by JP Manpower 11:45, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's usual. And they're like, yeah, we'll see you at 11:45. Bring your ID. Okay, so I know I have that one. Starts on Sunday evening, 11:45. It's midnight to 8:30. Awesome, I can do that. Um, it's just so weird. So I show up at the Olive Garden interview. In the back of my mind, I'm like, it really doesn't matter if I get this or not. I mean, it'd be nice to have it, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, I know that the manpower one is temporary. It is. But I'm just trying to build up the funds and get to a point where I can file my taxes, add that to whatever I get from the GFM campaign, get out. That's my intention. So I'm like, at least with JP Manpower, I can, sustain us enough to get to where we need to be. And if hubby gets a job that, kind of, even if he gets part-time, it'll get us a little bit further along. That's my thinking. So I show up at this interview kind of half expecting to bomb it. I mean, I even tell the guy, I'm like, within the next, sometime within this next year, I'm planning on leaving. He's like, okay, yeah, cool. But, you're a people person. And he and I sit there and talk restaurants. That's what we do. I got called for the bartending position, but like most Darden restaurants, which Olive Garden, O'Charlie's, all of these restaurants fall into here in Louisville. There's two or three major big name ones which fall underneath the Darden family label. They were like, we're going to work you as a server first so you can get used to the menu, then we'll switch you over to bartending. And I'm like, that's cool. I can handle that. No problem. Um, so He and I sit there and talk restaurants for like half an hour. And he is like, "You really seem to be a people person." I'm like, "Well, I have my days." And so he sets me up for an interview with his boss because they do two interviews. So, needless to say, tomorrow morning, or technically, yeah, it's 12:35 this morning at 11 a.m. I have an interview with his boss. Um, don't ask me how that happened, but I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to be working the IRS, this temp job, and I love this temp job. I mean, this temp job has everything that most people would hate about it. Okay, I am like elbow deep in, paperwork, and it's mind-boggling, just repetitive, mind-boggling how repetitive it is, and I get bored easily. But I'm surrounded by other people. I'm elbow deep in paperwork. Love it, love it, love everything about this place. I just love it. And then Olive Garden. I love this restaurant. I love the people. And I know how servers and busboys and dishboys, all that work. I mean, I've worked restaurants and I've worked a variety of restaurants. So I know how all that rolls. And and I'm sitting there thinking, I actually hope I get this one too. So I came home and I told my husband. He was like, "So what'd they say?" Because he already knows I'm gonna be working on Sunday night. He's like, "So what'd they say?" And I'm like, um, um, so if they call me back and I get the job, can I work both? Can I work both? Can I work both? Please, 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 please. Let me work both. And he was like, "Do they?" I'm like, I told him up front exactly what I was doing. Midnight to 8:30 in the morning. This job, it's temporary, but I'm doing this as well, which would probably be easier. Most restaurants like hiring in part time, especially when you're training. It's just easier all the way around. So he was like, "Oh, if you can handle it, you can do both." Yeah, awesome. So Thursday was marvelous. I speak with Digital, and she was like, "Okay, in case the churches don't work, you can go to Neighborhood Place." Now, what I know of Neighborhood Place is just what I've had to deal with. Food stamps, insurance for the kiddos, insurance for me and hubby. This is what I know them for. Um, Help with rent, help with utilities. Every time I've talked to them about this before, yes, even 2 years ago before I contacted the church, um, every time they've said, "We don't do that." Well, I talked to her and I'm like, she's like, "Well, they do that." And I'm like, "They didn't do that before." She was like, "Well, they do that now." And, and I told her, and it stands actually extremely true. Anytime you're used to going to a place over and over and over and over and over, you get used to what they offer to the point where you don't pay attention if that changes. And so much about this place has changed. A lot of the personnel hasn't changed, but the inside of the building has changed. They streamlined a lot of things, um, trying to make it easier to get in and out, and have a caseworker and understand what it is you are doing. And they're trying to treat everybody as individuals, which is marvelous. But I certainly didn't know they help with housing. So then we come to this morning. I plan to call the church. I plan to do that, you know, a little bit later because I'm going to go to Neighborhood Place. I'm going to do it early in the morning. I wake up and yeah, there's still snow on the ground. I mean, and it felt pretty good the night before. So I opened up WLKY, one of the websites around here, and it says JCPS is open. Okay. And then at the bottom, in red, it says no transportation. Now, what this means to me is the school's open, but they're not going to be running a bus past here. So I double checked. Checked JCPS. It said, yeah, we're open. Checked WLKY. No transportation. All right. I'm not even going to bother to wake the kids then. So at 8:30, I head out. There are buses everywhere. They meant no transportation for Head Start or early childhood classes. That's not what the website said, but that's what they meant. I was like, oh, that's just great. So I head to the neighborhood place, the one I'm used to going. Now, there's two different ones. I'm not sure what the other one's for, but I know what this one's for, and they always help me. So after about 15 minutes of waiting there, which is pretty awesome, I actually move up quickly, and I'm being entertained by Night at the Museum on the telly, which, I love that movie. I get up there and she goes, oh, honey, we take care of food stamps, we take care of insurance. You're thinking of the other one. I'm like, I didn't even know the other one even operated. So I go there, the waiting room is empty. Completely empty. I'm like, what? And the guy's like, I need you to fill this out and initial what you don't need. And I'm like, that's weird, but that is what the paperwork says. So I fill out the paperwork. And I wait longer there, it seems like, than I did at the other place. And it's completely empty. Guy comes to get me, and I tell him what's going on. In November, late November, I lost my job because of my car. My car broke down, and I kept them updated, but 2 days passed by, they were no longer interested. So, technically, they fired me, but at the same time, technically, I quit. I walked in with my shirts in hand. Because he was like, oh, well, I guess you quit. And I'm like, technically, no, I didn't. And technically, I wasn't fired. I'm not really sure how they listed it. But I do know that I walked in assuming I was fired. I turned out to technically not be wrong. And he was like, so how much do you make in December? And I said, well, I've got a bank statement right here. And I can tell you what I made from mid-November to mid-December, which was $16.44. I said, that's about average. That's about what we get. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, what about, food stamps? You getting any of that? I'm like, no. I said, because my husband and I make literally 25 cents closer. Too much for food stamps. And because we're both working, we make too much for insurance. But I was listed as part-time, which means I don't get insurance. He just got full-time. So it would take about a month or two for him to even be able to apply for insurance. I said, so that was the situation we were in. And he was like, so what happened to your husband's job? I'm like, right around the 30th was the last day he worked. I said that one was another one that was tricky. Technically he quit, but technically he didn't at the same time. I said he called in, figured he was fired. They consider he quit. I don't know how they listed on the paperwork. And he was like, okay. So what I have to do is next Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have to come in with my husband and I's IDs, all 4 Social Security cards, our lease, and pay stubs from September to January. I told him that'll probably be relatively simple. I said, when I lost my job, it was just at that perfect point where we couldn't make rent to pay for November's rent. I said, then December came, and my husband's working all this overtime, and we still weren't able to make it. I said, so that's the situation where we were in. And he was like, well, I need you to come in on the 12th. And I'm like, if I do that, that means literally 7 days from then, I'm going to be evicted. And he was like, we're going to call your rental agency. That's why we asked who it was. And I was like, okay, I guess when the government calls you, you listen, even though I've already got a court date set. When the government calls you, you listen. Okay, no problem. He was extremely kind. He was extremely understanding. Um, I told him, I said, I literally just got a job too, and it was one of those situations of, do I take it because I might not be there uh, by the time the job actually starts getting me where I need to go. And he was like, we'll see what we can do to help you out and take care of you. Um, so I actually have hope again. I really do. If it doesn't pan out, I'm actually going to have to dig into what I don't want to. I mean, I've raised this money to move. I don't want to dig into that money to bail our asses out. I mean, it's logical, but what's in my bank account will not make up for the rest. And I really don't want to do that, I mean, I raised the money to move. I didn't raise the money to stay. But it's one of those of, if they deem they can't help me and no church deems that it can help me, well, then that's likely what I'm going to have to do. So tomorrow I find out if I actually have the Olive Garden job. I'm thinking they probably won't hire me. It's been a long time since I've worked restaurant. But I definitely have the IRS gig, which is awesome. I mean, that's awesome right there. Um, and then something else funny happened, like today. So I came home and I let my husband know, holy shit, I think we may actually have our butts saved. Um, Kiddos are sitting there. I'm like, did you get breakfast? And they're like, no. So I went ahead and I got them breakfast. I didn't call a church because I already have plans set in motion for this. I don't know if it would be foolish to not call a church, but I'm pretty sure if I called a church and told them I just involved the government, they'd be like, well, see how that pans out first. So, fingers crossed all the way around. So my husband and I, funnily enough, he talks about these auditions that I did last week. I play a game called Skyrim. Skyrim is based off of Elder Scrolls. One of the first ones I played that I'm able to play because of Steam and because of the system setup that I have is Morrowind. Morrowind and then Oblivion and then Skyrim. That's the way it runs. Morrowind is when they really started getting detailed with the characters and their interactions, and the whole entire world is just vast, especially when you consider how old the game is. This game is intricate. And it is gorgeous and it's loads of fun to play. And then you have Oblivion, which, pretty much is the same thing. And then you have Skyrim, which is even bigger, more massive, more characters, more everything. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous game. Well, I tried out for a mashup. These guys have put together something called Skywind, which is Morrowind and Skyrim together. And they're trying to update Morrowind itself, bring it more into the modern type of texturing and technology that we have. But of course, Morrowind being what it was, you didn't have a whole lot of voice acting. A lot of these side characters had text, they didn't have voice actors. Or the voice acting was, the audio quality was so poor because of how modern computers handle it. It just didn't come through clear. So I tried out for a Khajiit and a Breton. Now what kills me is I loaded the Breton and the Khajiit onto my SoundCloud. I got loads of hits for the Breton voice. Loads of hits. And I actually hate the way that turned out. I hate it. I think it is terrible. I think it is rushed. I tried to do it in 4 or 5 takes, and eventually I just went, okay, yeah, I'll just take this one. I thought it was poor. It could have been loads better. It really could have. The Khajiit I was kind of happy with. Well, my husband's like, well, when they contact you, I'm like, they're not going to contact me. They're just not. They're not going to contact me because I am up against thousands of auditions, okay? Thousands. With voice actors who would probably have far more experience and are far more talented than I am. I'm like, just my voice. You can occasionally hear this break in it, and that's been happening for 6 months. It's probably only about maybe 4 or 5. Ever since around the time that I caught strep, when everybody around me was sick, everybody's getting pneumonia and pleurisy and everything else, and I managed to bypass all of that, and I headed straight to strep. Ever since then, it's like my voice breaks at odd times. Whenever I go above or under a certain pitch, it's like my voice breaks, and it just drives me crazy. I know that smoking hasn't helped, but smoking all of a sudden doesn't make your voice go crazy. It's after you have something like strep throat, your voice goes crazy. So, yeah, I've been dealing with that, and my husband's like, oh, they'll contact you. And I'm like, no, they probably won't. Um, he had looked up on Thursday night a mod, and he was like, oh, look, they're looking for voice talent here, too. And I'm like, I'll probably give it a shot, but I wasn't going to try overly hard. I hadn't heard anything back from these guys. I'm probably not going to. And he was like, well, look, they've got one or two. Why don't you just take a look and play around? And he was like, they may actually have dialogue in there that's risque. And I was like, oh, that's not a problem. As long as I'm not in the same room with somebody while I'm recording it, it's not a problem. Um, and he was like, you play around with voices all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I get that from my dad. And I do that for my kids, and I do that for fun. So I was looking at doing one of those voices and was planning, okay, I'm going to pick the older lady who's like the wise woman of the tribe, and I'm going to try out for that. And once again, this is a Skyrim mod. So I'm like, I'll just try out for that. I couldn't seem to get the voice of the younger person very well because my voice kept breaking. There's no way I can go that high of a pitch anymore. So he was like, have you given it a shot yet? And I was like, not yet, but I plan to do that later. I said, but nobody's going to call me back, dude. I don't know exactly what you're thinking. He was like, well, you do voices all the time. You do this all the time. And I'm like, and I do this at home to entertain my kids. I said, there are far more talented writers out there. I write fan fiction in worlds where better writers are. And I do it for fun. I do it, to share with, certain like-minded people. And I'm like, and when I do voices, I do it to entertain myself. I do it to entertain my kids. A lot like what my dad did with me. This is to entertain, the people around me. And he was like, okay, I want you to remember this. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Whatever, dude. I mean, nobody's gonna call me back. All right, my chance at acting was blown years ago, because I chose to move to Florida to be with the man that I love instead of staying behind and taking opportunities that might be there or might not. Turns out the opportunities were there. My mother decided not to call me and let me know. And my mother-in-law was more pissed about it than I was. I'm bitter. She was infuriated. So imagine my surprise when we're sitting around and we're catching a friend of ours up with Doctor Who. And we've been doing this off and on for like a month and a half because he had never seen Doctor Who. So I introduced him to the 11th Doctor, and he's like totally in love. And I insist we all need to watch Doctor Who when I'm here because, Doctor Who. And I'm rediscovering the love of the 11th Doctor, and I'm kind of like, Rory, how could I forget the Doctor? So we're in the middle of that, and I'm catching up with you guys, and I am checking my emails, and this email pops up from Tess Renewal, and I'm like, what? I look at it, and I get told that they loved my audition for the Kyiet. And I can go here, and I can download my lines. I'm going to need to get a better mic setup, or a room, that is more suited for sound. And I need to put this together. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And my husband's like, whoa, what? Stops Doctor Who, and I'm like, I just passed the audition and I got this part and I need to go download it now? And he did his happy I told you so dance, complete with me rolling my eyes and whatever. So, in one day, or within the last couple of days, my rent might be taken care of. I have a job with the potential of a second job, both of which I will love to pieces. I actually won an acting audition, and I may not be paid, but that still looks rather good on the resume, and I will be doing that. So life has gotten extremely strange, all at once, but also very, very good. Before I recorded this post, I went ahead and I did an audition for the Skyrim mod, for the older wise woman. Now, they didn't give you any lines to read. You actually had to come up with your interpretation of the character. So I'm hoping that I did well enough. I really do. But I'm not going to say that it's not possible for me to get it, because I just said that today. And if I had said something along the lines of, I'm never going to get the part, and if I do, I'll eat my shorts, let's just say I'd probably be choking on cotton right about now. Because, yeah, that caught me off guard. So, it seems that in an attempt to remember that life is mostly good, and to try to keep things positive, and to keep smiling, and try to find small instances to be happy, the universe has lined up to make this easier. I'm still broke as hell. I'll probably be broke as hell for a while. But I might actually be able to save my butt, do 2 jobs that I love, which will also save our butts, be able to gather enough to move with when I do go to move. And I have another side job that, even though I might not get paid for this, I can put on a resume, I can load into SoundCloud and keep record of, and use these as a portfolio. This is what I've done as a portfolio, and a job that I can do anywhere, from anywhere. So either today or tomorrow, I'm going to be going to my room, shutting off the ceiling fan, shutting off our other fan over here, and I'm going to be patting the window, because our room is kind of small and it's lined with books, so that's almost like a soundproofer in and of itself. And I'm going to be going in there and I'm going to be recording 2 combat lines and 3 regular lines, and I'm going to be sending those in for approval, so they can tell me what needs to change, what not, what doesn't need to change. And I'm just going to have a good time. And I'm going to remember that just because I'm 39 doesn't mean I'm dead. That the rules that when I was in my 20s don't really apply any longer when it comes to the voice acting world. See, when I was in my 20s, by the time you hit 25, if you were a model or you were an actress or a voice actor, you're past your prime. You better cram in as much work as you can before you get slapped the label of somebody's mother. And I keep forgetting the rules change. Because I was just telling my husband today, I'm 39 years old. Who the hell wants somebody that's almost 20 years past the point they need to be to do voice acting? I'm up against thousands of people, and any one of these thousands could have way more talent than me. And he was like, well, here's the problem. You've got these talents. And I'm like, eh. And he was like, and you don't apply them. I'm like, I do apply them. I just don't happen to market them. There's a difference. And he was like, well, some people's hobbies can become their job. And he was like, the difference is when and if the time comes, what is it going to be? Now, that's something I can't answer yet. That is a question that I would look forward to answering. I would love to be able to write a novel, be able to stick with something long enough to actually write a novel. I would love to be able to do voice acting. I've always loved acting. And with acting, it's just like my writing. I'm rather down on me, and I always have been. I have this stuck in my mind that I can either do the character or I could read the lines. I can't seem to make the two go. And he had some good advice for me. He was like, well, play with your kids. Because, I'm always like, hey, little boy. You know what I mean? I do fun things with the kids. And I'm the type to talk to the chip and pen machine. Please wait. Like whenever you stick your card in, card authorizing. Please wait. I mean, I do this everywhere, and it's not something I think about. And he was like, just do that. Just, read the lines. Yeah, he's like, but do it like you're reading a book to me, or like you are playing with your children. And he was like, just keep that in mind. He's like, and just go have fun. And I think that's what this next month is going to be for me. Go have fun. You'll be able to take care of business as usual and get things done and get things taken care of. I mean, this will happen one way or another. But I think I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it. So far, 2017 started off rather rocky. But here it is, we're now 7 days in, and I have better things to report than I did throughout most of 2016. I know this post is really, really long. I mean, I've pushed it about 10 minutes past the mark I usually do. But as you can see, there was a lot to cram in there. I will understand if you skip this post, though. I completely understand. I'm pretty sure I've left something out. I always do. It's late, forgive me. But if so, I'll catch it later. And hopefully answer this post before a week is up. Until I actually answer comments or talk to you guys again in your own live journals. Just take good care of yourselves. Take good care of each other. Never forget that I love you. And may you have a happy 2017. I'll still be here to see you through it. And I will talk to you all later.